Hi everyone, I'm your host Ashley Kreze, and thanks once again for joining us on It's All Millennial. Here we talk about the issues that matter most to Generation Y. So in this episode, we're talking about non-traditional relationships and Gen Y's openness to new life experiences. Speaking of trying new things, millennials have often referred to as the hookup generation. The old rules of relationships definitely don't apply when it comes to Gen Y. Today, we are joined by Amber Fairlie, the creative director at the Manor Boutique Salon, and Chintan Bhatt, a recent graduate from the Queen's University with a master's degree in international business. Welcome.
Thanks for having us, Ashley.
Yeah, you're very welcome. So we have some good discussions for today. We're talking about us millennials often being, called the hookup generation. What are your thoughts? Do you think dating is harder for millennials today? Why or why not?
I don't think it's harder. I think it's different. Instead of going out to a bar, you sit at home and you can swipe right or you can swipe left.
Yeah, no, I agree. How about you, Chintan?
Yeah, I think it's changed in a way. Like it's evolved over time. It's just channelized into a new form of communication. Like previously, you could go to a bar and you could walk up to a girl, but now, as Amber said, you could just connect to someone on the phone, on the social media. So it's changed, but yeah, like it's just the concept's just like revised to make it to suit like the current millennial needs.
Yeah. Although people, you've talked a little bit about Tinder and other websites as well, though. Do you feel like it's harder for people seeking a relationship or a partner on some level? Do you feel like it's harder to form intimate relationships based on swiping right or swiping left?
I don't think it's harder. I think it's, again, different. I've seen both ends of the perspective. I know a lot of people that have gotten married and had babies off of Tinder, which is funny. And then I also know the other perspective of it where it's just for hooking up, which I think it's the same as if you're going to go to a bar. You could either meet somebody to hook up with, or you can meet somebody that could potentially be a lifetime partner or, in there for a season.
Yep. Chintan, how about you?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's. I would say it might be hard forming an intimate relationship until you really come across someone that you feel that she's the one that I want to spend, or from a girl's point of view as well. So it might take a bit of a while because sometimes there's so many girls that you'll be like, oh, should I run after this one or that one? So it's kind of a bit of confusion as well.
So there's more choice, isn't there?
Absolutely, and it's a paradox of choice where the more the choices you're given, the more confused you could be. But until you get the right one, you want to zero down straight and probably take the relationship forward.
Yeah, so I guess people get a lot of decision fatigue, right? Just all these choices, how am I supposed to sort through, who I choose? Which actually leads into another interesting question: how do people choose? I mean, maybe that's not. What do you feel? When swiping, right? How do people choose?
Well, I mean, it could be like depending on the factors that you're looking for in your partner. Like if you find someone who's really interesting just on the swipe, and when you meet her in person, and you're like, this is really the girl that I've wanted to be or go around with. And if you come across with a person, I'm sure you can take the relationship forward. But just on the swipe, until you spend some time, you get to know the person. It's just kind of a bit hard. Like personally, I feel.
So it's more superficial.
To a certain extent, yes. But if you just want to hook up, then it's totally cool. But if you're looking for more intimate relationships, then you do want to take a bit of a time before taking the next step forward.
Okay. So according to the Pew Research Center, millennials are holding off on getting married actually till later in life. Apparently only 20% of millennials actually have tied the knot. Why do you think we're changing the game?
Personally, I think that people want to wait and get more career focused first, like get their job in order, get settled, and then they're thinking about marriage, opposed to back in the day when people that was their first priority, and then they'd worry about everything else after that. I just don't think it's like a priority now.
Absolutely. I mean, I just finished off my master's school, and so I have a student debt to pay off and recover the expense. So and marriage, of course, it has a financial commitment to us as well. Right. So before I get married, I do want to make sure that I have some stability in life in terms of the job. I have recovered a substantial amount of my student debt, so that if I get married, then at least I can live the life where you could have a good marriage, go to a good place for a honeymoon or a vacation. So those things you do want to take into factor before you get married. So you do want to postpone your marriage a bit.
Yeah, no, that's interesting.
And of course, it's also till the time you get the right partner, you want to spend some time, take the courtship period longer, and then probably go for a commitment. So.
Right. Yeah. Well, to each his own, right? We all have different choices and different preferences. So this generation, I mean, perhaps is more ethically, racially diverse than older generations. Does it make them more likely to accept different types of relationships that perhaps weren't so as common with baby boomers and the silent generation? What are your thoughts?
I definitely think it's more open because people are just, I think, more knowledgeable and just more open-minded about different scenarios and relationships in general. So I don't really think that race or a different sexual preference is really an issue anymore. So people are just, whatever goes, goes. And whatever makes them happy is, they're not necessarily worried about the status quo.
Sure. So love is love.
Love
Doesn't
is
matter.
Absolutely.
Nice. Sorry, was there anything that you wanted to add, Chintan?
No, absolutely. I
Yeah.
completely agree, and I feel that the millennials are more open to new, like a different kind of relationships. So yeah, I think that's definitely kind of encourages these sorts of relationships these days.
So are we totally ditching the traditional values?
I
More
think to a
liberal
certain
mindset? What do you think?
Yeah, I think it's to a certain extent. Like, you don't have to get married, have the white fence, 3 kids, a dog. It's kind of just whenever it is, whenever your time is, and just do what makes you happy.
So priorities and preferences and what else? Any other things we haven't talked about?
In terms of ditching the traditional
Yeah,
values.
ditching the traditional realms.
Well,
yeah.
I wouldn't really say completely like ditching it, but you do want to hold on to certain values. It's not like, you do want to like completely scrape it off. But yeah, they're also, the times have changed, so definitely you do need to adapt to the current times as well. So you do want to settle down first, make sure that you have some financial stability, as well as, you think that the relationship is in a good shape, and then you want to move forward. So yeah, I wouldn't say completely ditching the traditional values, but yeah, it's taking like a hybrid approach of the traditional and the modern approach, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. Or hey, you know what? Maybe I don't even want to settle down. Maybe I just want to have fun and never do it. But to each his own, right?
Yeah.
Awesome. So when it comes to new life experiences, millennials are all about them. Next, we'll talk about some of them when we return. Stay with us. Welcome back to It's All Millennial. I'm your host, Ashley Kreze. In this segment, we're talking more about life experiences. In the last segment, we talked about how that can include exploring different types of relationships. In other cases, a life experience might include something like multiple piercings, dyeing your hair pink, or getting a tattoo. According to the Pew Research Center, almost 40% of millennials have a tattoo. And there's a growing trend right now for vibrant expression of one's hair. We're talking to Amber Fairlie, Creative Director at the Manor Boutique Salon, and Chintan Bhatt, a recent graduate from Queen's University with a master's degree in international business. So guys, expressions of self, right? Whether you consider this a life experience or just, trying something new. The first question actually is for you, Amber. You're, the Creative Director of one of the most popular hair salons in Toronto. Personally for me, and I imagine lots of other women and men, hair is that one outlet of a creative outlet, right?
Of course.
So what have you noticed? You probably work with a wide range of ages, maybe millennials as well. What are people asking for?
People want more like lived-in hair, come and go, something different, something not so permanent. Especially with hair coloring, people want to do different tones of hair colors, so pink, purple, green, blue, and it's not just with millennials. It's even with the older generation. They're just kind of tired of the
brown,
and
black,
the blonde.
and
So it's just one of those things that you can do. It's not permanent. You can always dye it back. So that's one of the biggest growing trends that we've noticed.
So why are people outside of the box?
I think they're just willing to try different things. They're being more open-minded. And it's like self-expression. So how you're feeling, what you want to look, what you want to express is, part of your hair and your personality, and it's an easy fix. It's not permanent. It's not like something life changing or anything like that.
It's fun.
So it's fun. You can just do what you want, and there's no consequence.
Sure. Well, and there's, maybe from one aspect as well, if we talk about the societal point of view, right? It's more openness, maybe of society, right? Rather than, sort of the box being like this. The box is evolving. Do you agree, Chintan?
Well, yeah, to each its own. Like everyone has a different, preference to, whatever styling they want to come up with. So, yeah, if whatever you're comfortable, whatever you think that it suits you, or it's just part of your skin, yeah, totally go for it. But yeah, just coming up, with a cool hairstyle just to be a part of a cool crowd, I would say, yeah, that's something you gotta like introspect. Like if it's something that you're really comfortable with doing it, then yeah, by all means, go for it. Be the round peg in the square hole.
I like that. Good point. Absolutely. So some researchers say that tattoos are one of the few evidences of a true generation gap, especially when only 10% of those over 40 years old admit to having one. Do you agree with this? Do you think the older generations view tattoos differently than millennials?
I definitely think they view it differently. It's like self-expression. Some would say it's art, depending on what they're, putting on their body. I personally have no tattoos.
Oh, no?
Nope, not one, which is shocking actually for me.
Yeah. How about you, Chintan? Sorry to...
No, I don't have a tattoo.
No, okay, me neither. Yeah.
That's actually rare.
So it's an element of self-expression then.
Yeah.
But do you feel though that it is evidence of a true generation gap? Chintan, what are your thoughts?
Well, tattoos have been present from long. Like previously, it is said that criminals and people from from more of the oppressed group had tattoos, but now it's evolved more to the middle class, and even the celebrities have started flashing tattoos. Like British Prime Minister's wife, even she has a tattoo as well. So the trends have been changing. People do like wearing a tattoo, and like most of the people have a story associated to it. Like someone would have their daughter's picture tattooed on their chest or something like that. So it has these cute expressions associated to it. So yeah, to each its own, and it's their choice as long as you're okay doing that. It doesn't matter.
Yeah. Well, the millennial generation often has many stereotypes, right? I mean, let's face it, we're entitled, or we, the attention sponges, right? We're always looking for some way to express ourselves a little bit differently than, our peers or our other generations. Do you think, though, that, millennials getting tattoos are yet another way of them trying to be special?
I think a little bit. It's also very trendy, so it's kind of like a look, I find at least. But yeah, it's definitely something to make them feel a little bit more special than just the regular average skin.
Yeah. And I also feel that, I feel that millennials are more bold. Like, they don't really, have any reservations doing any of these things, which probably the older generations, even though they wanted to do, but, they might be, a bit caught up by the dogma that others are not really doing it. So they might have a bit of reservations doing that, but the millennials are pretty different. Like, they don't really mind being, one of the, the odd numbers in the, amongst the crowd. So I think it's, they enjoy basically, doing
so
those things.
Are we enjoying the rebelliousness of it? Is that it?
Well, I wouldn't really say the rebelliousness, because most just flashing a tattoo doesn't really mean that you're a misfit or you're a rebellion kid. I mean, it's people have a story behind it, and now tattoo is more perceived as an art. Right? People come up with like amazing creativity in that, and lots of varieties going around in that, like multicolored and those kind of things. So I think it's like, I personally don't like having a tattoo over my body, but yeah, I mean, to whoever it has, like, yeah, good job. Like, yeah, after all the pain that you've endured, it's really good. Yeah.
Well, that same research study that I mentioned, Pew Research Center, almost 70% of millennials have tattoos, but it had talked about how many of them have them hidden, right? So they're, up to the sleeve, or they're under a piece of clothing so that they can't actually be shown. So then you sort of might think, well, what's the point, right?
Well, some people just like to have them hidden because it's more for themselves. It's not for everyone else. And then there's the other side of it where maybe they are going in for a job interview and they don't want to show it because maybe they would be opposed to it. So they have something that a sleeve can cover, or a jacket, or it's just for themselves, I think, for a lot of them.
Yeah, like some of the tattoos have a personal story to it, and you don't want to flash it to the whole of the world just to be an attractive figure.
Sure.
So it's better something you just want to keep it to yourself. Probably when you're only you could see it, or it's just people who are very close to you could see it. So yeah, the point is not to just flash or be like an attractive point to it, but just keeping it to yourself, and it's a very personal tattoo.
Well, it's good. I think from a society point of view, right? There's more openness. People are comfortable with what do they choose, what do they want to, have purple hair, get a tattoo, do nothing, stick to brown hair. There's choices, right? And people don't feel like they have to maybe stick in that box that maybe other generations felt, trapped in, right? Awesome. Well, we're going to head to a quick break. When we come back, we'll be talking about millennials and the trend to become YouTube famous. Stay tuned. Welcome back to It's All Millennial. I'm your host, Ashley Kreze. In this segment, we're discussing the trend of millennials to become famous through YouTube. According to a 2014 survey by Variety magazine, millennials actually view YouTube fame as an achievable goal compared to becoming a TV or movie star. Many also prefer YouTube stars over traditional celebrities, stating that they feel like they're more relatable. We're back talking to Amber Fairlie, the creative director at the Manor Boutique Salon, and Chintan Bhatt, a recent graduate from Queen's University with a master's degree in international business. Thanks, guys.
Thank you, Ashley.
All right, so YouTube fame, right? I mean, so many videos are put together by millennials on YouTube. Is achieving YouTube fame just another way for people in our generation to feel like they're getting the attention that they want?
In a way, I would say so, but I think YouTube has also completely changed the game for a lot of things. So you are able to get famous on it, and you can get endorsements through different companies, and you can get your message out there, I think, a lot easier than before, because you kind of had to be a TV star or you had to be a host. Now you can just gain popularity over your followers on so many different venues, and you can become YouTube famous.
Chintan, how about you?
Well, I think some of the YouTube stars that I personally, enjoy watching, they're so creative and talented that I think it's totally worth it putting up those videos, because it's a really great way to reach like a global audience and connect with them.
Absolutely.
And one of the reports says that people find it more, as you said, people can relate to the YouTube stars better than the Hollywood celebrities, because you could share the content, connect to them. So the relationship is more personal, and yeah. So I think it's if you have like a skill, I believe the fame and the subscribers that you get, I think it just follows you because you're so good with your work that people just can't stop sharing that work and being. So people actually make you famous by putting it across their social media.
Yeah. So maybe it's a different type of relationship that was formed, when compared to TV stars or different celebrities. What do you think? In terms of social media, right? Whether you're on YouTube or Instagram, I mean, you're connecting, you're sort of chatting back and forth through comments, right? You can add likes to videos where maybe back in the day, right, there wasn't as much interaction. Do you think that's right?
Yeah, definitely, and so it's a it's a very responsive connection where the person that you're commenting, he replies back to you, says thanks, please keep sharing these comments. It really encourages me, and I think as if you're a fan of these YouTube celebrities, I think it's really motivating for you. And one of the things is, most of these YouTube stars are, they're risk takers. Their actions aren't really orchestrated or, guided by the PR firms, which most of these traditional Hollywood celebrities have. So they come up with topics which are really creative, which are very unique and risk taking, which probably the Hollywood celebrities might resist getting into that space.
Well, interesting point of view. Do you have your own channel?
No, I wasn't really that creative enough.
You know what? No, not yet. How about you, Amber?
I am on YouTube a little bit
Yeah.
with demos and do-it-yourself hair tutorials.
Nice.
But I'm not a YouTube star.
Yeah. No, I hear ya. So while there's some millennials earning millions, and I'm so proud, it's so great for them, should most Gen Yers not quit their day job?
Yeah. I think it all depends on how much followers they have. Like, if you're doing it and you're 100% committing to it, I think there's nothing wrong with that. But there is something to be said having a daytime job. Like, you do have to work and
earn some
money and contribute to society.
Definitely, yeah.
All right.
So yeah, I think it's definitely you do want to hold on to like a certain base until you start hitting a threshold, and where you've actually blown the roof on YouTube. So once I think you're famous enough, or you have like, let's say, 1 million followers, or like you're confident that I can probably take my skill forward, then I think probably just 100% get devoted to your channel and keep growing your followers.
Well, it's a business, right? I mean, you look at the analytics behind YouTube, right? You think about the goals of the content that you're putting into it, what the followers want, right? I'm thinking you think of it from the business perspective, right?
For sure.
That's great. So as YouTube and social media, do you think we've become a society that's too obsessed with fame and popularity, especially our generation?
I think to a little extent, people can become really self-absorbed and almost, just in it for that. But but yeah, it's definitely sometimes you have to know the boundaries. Like, is it too much? Am I on it all the time, or is it just for work?
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with what Amber's added here, and just to add that I think sometimes the fame and popularity, it just follows you because your work is so good. Probably, let's say some of the most creative, like a self-taught makeup artist. If she has like 2 million followers, then yeah, probably she's so good with her art that people really want to learn from her. So yeah, I mean, I don't think so. He or the person set up a channel with the intention of being famous, but it was just to demonstrate her art. Just as you have artists, exhibiting their skills. I think it's just a channel to demonstrate and exhibit your skills and art that you've acquired or learned over time.
Well, what a place we live in, right? To be able to express yourself and have a medium that allows you to use your skills and strengths and just build upon them, learn, tweak. It's a nice way to to grow personally, right?
Sure.
YouTube famous. Do you think that it has any negative consequences?
With the negativity part of it, I think with them being allowed to comment and share and other people are allowed to express themselves on it, I think that it can be a little bit harsh sometimes to either the host with their channel or to other people, because then it leaves yourself a little bit vulnerable to a bigger scale of people having a comment on what you're doing and why you're doing it.
Yeah.
So I think that part is negative a little bit, and then it can also be positive at the same time. But
I hear you.
it all depends on where it's at.
Chintan, any final thoughts from you?
Well, negative consequences is sometimes, we do hear cases where YouTube stars got in trouble because there was like a very sensitive topic that they commented on, and their fans kind of backleashed it then. So it's these kind of issues which do kind of get up in trouble sometimes. Which is just with an intention of having a little fun. You do kind of cross the boundary and tweak on something sensitive, which might upset some people's sentiments. You definitely want to keep that in mind. Where you're not really crossing the boundaries and living in the norms. It's good to have like a good laugh and joke, but
we're still people. You gotta be nice to people.
That's true. As long as you're not touching on something really sensitive or which kind of upset some people's sentiments.
Absolutely.
So yeah.
Well, great. Thank you both. So that'll do it for this episode. I want to thank our guests for joining us on set today. Amber Fairlie, the creative director at the Manor Boutique Salon, and Chintan Bhatt, a recent graduate from Queen's University with a master's degree in international business. And of course, thank you for watching. Here's how to connect with us. Our website, www.itsallmillennial.com, and on social media, Twitter, Instagram, LinkedIn, maybe not YouTube, and everything to do with Generation Y. See you next time.